Hi everybody, this is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. Today we're talking about russet potatoes, and I have a list of tips and ideas that may help you out when you're working with russet potatoes. This is part 2. This is a long list, so I broke it up into 2 videos. This is the second. If you haven't seen part 1, check the description box below and I'll have a link to that for you. Sometimes when potatoes are cut and not yet cooked, they might develop a pinkish color or a brownish color, start to turn dark. And this is from the starch reacting with the oxygen in the air. And potatoes that become discolored like that are still safe to eat. So don't throw them away, and this color will often disappear when they're cooked. So if that's happened, no fret. Now, when you are preparing potatoes, to keep cut potatoes from turning dark, you can place the cut pieces in a bowl of cold water until you're ready to cook them. If you want, you can add a little lemon juice or a little vinegar to help preserve their color, but that is not absolutely mandatory. That's a matter of personal preference if you want to do that. But the brief soaking will also help to keep the potatoes from falling apart when they're cooked, and to help retain as much of the water-soluble nutrients as possible, try not to soak them for any longer than 2 hours. That's probably longer than most of us would need to do that anyway, but you don't want to leach all of those water-soluble nutrients like the vitamin C that's in there into that water and then dump it down the sink. So try not to soak them for an extended period of time. Here's a good tip for you. When you're mashing potatoes, allow the cooked and drained potatoes to steam dry in the hot pot or maybe even over very low heat for just a minute or 2. And that'll remove any excess water so that you have a drier, lighter mash in your potatoes. Many of us will buy potatoes like this in a plastic bag. It could be a 3-pound, 5-pound, maybe even a 10-pound or more bag of potatoes. It's fine for them to sell them in the plastic bags, but when you get them home, try to store them out of the plastic bags. Take them out of there if you possibly can. They need air around them to help to keep them from aging too fast. And the best place to store them would be in a cool, dry, well-ventilated area away from direct sunlight, okay? Here's a nice tip for you, something to keep in your pantry handy. When you don't have a lot of time to prepare a meal and yet you want some mashed potatoes, use dehydrated potato flakes, instant potato flakes. They can be prepared easily in very little time with very little effort. Follow the directions on the package and you'll have mashed potatoes in no time. But an important note here, when you're buying them, please do read the label, especially if you're trying to avoid additives, particular additives that you may or may not want, okay? Some of the brands will have additives in there that you might be trying to avoid. Other brands will have just potatoes. So it pays to read the ingredients list when you're buying potato flakes. If you should decide to use frozen potatoes in any recipe that calls for using raw potatoes, be sure to reduce the liquid in that recipe by just a little bit, depending upon how many potatoes you're actually using, and also reduce the cooking time a little bit. Frozen potatoes are already partially cooked so that they will absorb less liquid and take less time to cook rather than if you were using raw potatoes, okay? So the adjustment to the amount of liquid and cooking time is going to depend upon whatever the recipe it is you're following, the amount and the size of the frozen potato pieces that you're using. So when you're not sure, make small adjustments and go from there and make further adjustments as needed. For a frame of reference, one medium russet potato is roughly 12 ounces, or will give you about 2 1/4 cups of 1/2 inch diced potato. 1 pound is about 2 small russet potatoes. And if you're cooking and you don't have enough russet potatoes that are called for in a recipe, you could substitute Yukon Gold potatoes, sweet potatoes, and even green plantains. So I hope this does help you out. This is Judi at Judi in the Kitchen. Bye for now.